I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change.
In the following presentation, we will expose to you independent verifiable evidence proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the 9/11 attack was a state-sponsored, false flag black operation involving a carefully planned and skillfully executed deception at the Pentagon. Relying on detailed interviews with eyewitnesses to the event, the flight path of the jet that allegedly struck the Pentagon and was seen flying treetop level over Arlington that day is conclusively established. As you will see, this flight path is very different from what the government reports, and we will explain the significance of this discrepancy momentarily. But first we'll go over what initially made people suspicious of this event. Unlike the attack on the World Trade Center, the attack on the Pentagon was not broadcast on live television. In fact, within the first hours of the attack, the FBI had confiscated video footage from dozens of locations, the vast majority of which has never been released. All of the images that the public does have were taken in the aftermath of the event. These available images left many puzzled as to how the damage could have been caused by the impact of a Boeing 757. There was a distinct lack of visible airplane debris on the lawn in front of the building, and very little reported inside. Although a relatively few amount of scraps and plane parts were photographed, none have been positively identified as belonging to Flight 77 or tail number N644AA, and there were no photographs of large fuselage sections, wings, or recognizable pieces of the tail, as is usually the case after a plane crash. Additionally, although this image of the damage after the roof collapsed is typically what is used by the media, the pre-collapse damage of the building seemed incompatible with the dimensions of a 757. Windows were still intact where the vertical stabilizer would have hit. Although these windows were considered blast-proof, it's not reasonable to suggest that they would be 757-proof. Oddly, just beneath these windows, right in the center of the hole, Column 14AA on the second floor remained intact. The columns in the area where the right wing and engine would have entered appeared to have been blown up and out, as opposed to having been pushed in, as would be expected if a plane had impacted. The damage is primarily at ground level, indicating that the massive Boeing would had to have slid on its belly into the bottom floor of the building, with the huge RB-211 engines digging into the concrete. And yet there is a conspicuous lack of damage to the foundation in all of the aftermath photos. The following plane crash examples show how damage and charring is to be expected. Yet none of these images from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, taken by photographer Jocelyn Augustino on September 21, 2001, a mere 10 days after the event, show any signs of damage to the foundation at all. The lack of visible foundation damage is underscored by an important scientifically validated fact that also fatally contradicts what we have been told. Using the reported speed and other values from the 2006 released NTSB alleged black box data, Pilots for 9/11 Truth has calculated the G-forces required for a 757 to descend to the level of the light poles and pull up to enter the building low and level as required by the physical damage, and found it to be aeronautically impossible. This is the case if we simply consider the obstacles and decline in topography in relation to the official flight path, but it gets much worse if we factor in the NTSB reported altitude of 699 feet above sea level. So the physics of flight mathematically prove the official story impossible. All calculations demonstrated with scale animations are available in the presentation 9/11 Attack on the Pentagon by Pilots for 9/11 Truth. These dubious facts concerning the physical evidence and the physics of the event, added with a deliberate lack of transparency by the authorities when it came to the evidence in general, led many to doubt the official account of what transpired that day. Numerous alternative theories were put forth, but they were mostly speculative. In 2006, Citizen Investigation Team launched an independent investigation into the event. We traveled to Arlington, Virginia to speak with eyewitnesses who were on the scene that day, especially individuals who had a good view of the final seconds of the plane in flight before it allegedly impacted the building. The purpose of this expedition was to establish the true flight path during this critical period, as reported by the independent eyewitnesses on the scene, in order to compare this information with the physical damage as established by photographs, video, and official reports. In tandem with the inception of this independent investigation, the government has responded to this effort with the quiet release of significant official data sets. Most notably, flight data recorder information allegedly from the black box of Flight 77, as released by the National Transportation Safety Board in 2006, and the alleged radar data released by the 84th Radar Evaluation Squadron in 2007. The NTSB data definitively establishes the officially required flight path of the attack jet, and the 84 RAIDS data establishes where all of the planes in the airspace near the time of the attack had to be according to the officials in control of this data. However, the true flight path as reported by the independent eyewitnesses definitively contradicts this government-controlled and supplied evidence, proving it has been manipulated as part of a very deliberate deception and cover-up. The very notion that the government would manipulate their own data is alarming enough. However, there would be a second implication that is much more disturbing, yet equally unavoidable. That implication is this: if the plane did not fly where the physical damage in the government-supplied data says it did in the final seconds before the explosion of the Pentagon, it did not hit the building. Naturally, this would explain why the physical damage has been considered so questionable and anomalous. In the final seconds before the alleged impact, a plane on the officially required flight path would have flown south of Columbia Pike, south of the Navy Annex, and south of the former Citgo gas station at all times. As it turned out, the eyewitnesses reported the complete opposite, proving the plane did not hit the building and that the physical damage had to have been staged. 13 eyewitnesses from the 5 most critical vantage points unanimously confirmed the plane crossed to the north side of Columbia Pike, flew directly over the Navy Annex, and north of the former Citgo gas station, irrefutably contradicting all official reports, released data, and all physical damage alleged to have been caused by the plane. First, we'll present the required south side approach, as indicated by all official reports, data, and the physical damage. Number 1. The 9/11 Commission.
The following is a time-lapse depiction of the flight path of American 77.
South of the Navy Annex and south of the former Citgo. Number 2. The alleged black box data released from the National Transportation Safety Board in 2006,